Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Hello, I'm Dr. Gemma. This is episode 82 of Cognitive. I am sitting out on my front patio looking at the pink moment spread itself across the valleys between me and the Santa Clara Divide, feeling a cool breeze, which is no small thing because it has been roastiferously hot here lately. And somewhere below me, I'm looking at the bulk of my girl Roxy wandering around, and the two camelids that remain to us are happy. And here we are, and the exciting breaking news, Queenie is indeed among us. And I will get to that with so much excitement in the blather, but if you would like to see some pictures of the soon-to-be our Queenie, go look at the show notes, which you can find at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com and also on our group on Ravelry. In the warm thanks department, Amy Cook of Cook's Collies, because she is going through some challenging times, but she stopped everything this morning and sent me pictures, and that's where the story starts. COVID, well, all the vaccine information is there, and our love to Nitty Barb, whose family is having a few virus problems. And remember, folks, it ain't gone yet. It just ain't gone yet, and Northern California is starting to mask up again, apparently. So, please use your common sense. Please get your boosters. Please stock up your masks. Get ready. It doesn't take a lot of brains to see that we have had a surge every summer, since 2020, and including 2020. So look, guys, get your boosters, get your masks. Be grateful you haven't got it right now. And prep up, because it seems pretty likely it's coming back one more time. Maybe it won't be as lethal. Maybe it won't be as bad, because so many of us have our vaccines now. But please, I have all the links you need in the show notes. Please use your common sense. In the meantime, what is on my hooks and needles? Well, here's one you never expected. I finished another watch cap. Why, you might ask? Well, when last we left our wild heroine, Gemma, she was back from Mammoth and was trying to use up yarn scraps. And again, on the way out of town, I stopped in Bishop at Sierra Cottons and Woolens, and I had a skein of Knit Picks Wool of the Andes in the current colorway that I used to make my wonderful Agnes sweater last year. And so I picked up a skein of Rios in the colorway Diana to go with it. And I made a hat. And as a result, now I've got a lot of leftovers of both of them. But the Diana will go into my scraps pile because I really didn't have enough left of the current after I finished this. The sound you heard thunking was my water bottle falling off the porch swing. So as I reorganize myself, let me say, I just settled myself down and made this beautiful hat. And I'm very happy. The pattern, I think I'm crediting the pattern from Church Mice Yarns. It's not really true. I think this, because it's a bulky weight yarn, this seems to be a sort of Frankenstein pattern I made up, starting with the Lion brand yarn watch cap pattern, which gets very confused, and then adding a slip stitch pattern that I made myself. So there it is. If you go to my notes in Ravelry, you can actually see the pattern I'm using because I wrote it all out. If you look at the pictures, you will see that I have indeed become addicted to those little leather tags people are putting on their hat brims. that look like, shishi store hats that have these little leather tags. This one says Stay Warm. On the last watch cap, it said Sierra Made. This one wasn't made in the Sierra, so I opted for a slighter association. At any rate, this is the Stay Warm watch cap. It is indeed very warm. It's solid wool, and it's gorgeous with the Diana from Rios. The rest of the Diana, tucked safely into a yarn sleeve, is sitting in my scraps bag for the next Romule sweater, and let me tell you, that scraps bag is growing. In progress, the Don't Know Yet, still on track, hanging in for July 19th. That will be 200 blocks. That is only about 35, 36 days away as I record this on Sunday, June 12th. So we are probably at about 165 blocks. Isn't that exciting? Believe me, I have blocks everywhere in my study. I am really looking forward to assembling this and moving it out into the world because I have so many blocks for this. Meanwhile, the Noro Heart Scarf. Well, I lost my marbles. When I came home last week, a week ago Friday that is, it was about June 5th or something, I pulled out the Noro Heart Scarf, which I had taken all the way up to Mammoth and never touched, and brought it all the way back. And I don't know what got into me, but I sat down, I think last Saturday morning, and said, why am I not working on this? The upshot is all the hearts are done. There's a picture of 5 of the 6 there on the 2 halves of the sweater, and I am just working out the rest of the yarn, using it up from the main colorway of the Noro Kurion. So you get each half of the scarf up to 37.5 inches, and then you graft it to the center back of the neck. This is a nice pattern. It pretty much uses 5 skeins of the main colorway and a little under 1 skein for the hearts. So you get to use up all your yarn. If I don't have enough of the main colorway, I will probably use up the extremely tiny amount of the heart colorway in the center back of the neck where it will never be seen or heard from again under my hair. But this works out very well. The other weird thing about this pattern, this is officially called number 29 Love Noro, in case you're wondering. And you can find it on Ravelry. You can get to a download of it if you weed through the site a little bit. You'll find it. It's a beautiful pattern. I do recommend it. The pattern is badly written. So I substituted seed stitch at the very bottom of it because it didn't. It just simply said start in a seed stitch border followed by a center of stockinette, which of course means the bottom of your scarf is curling up. So I did my first 8 rows in seed stitch. It still curls up a lot. I'm hoping that heavy steaming will help this. The other thing is the tension is tight. Kurion is really an Aran yarn, and they're using a size 7 needle, but the gauge they're asking for is 4 stitches per inch. Normally that would be like a size 10 needle for me. However, it did work in Kurion. Why? Because it's a thick, thin yarn. So if you're looking at that and saying a size 7 needle, yeah, most people seem to have stuck with the size 7 needle if they were using Noro Kurion. If they're using another more evenly spun Aran, probably you'd want to go up a needle size. At any rate, I am really enjoying this. I am very close to finished at this point. I think I've got about 32 inches on one side of it and about like 27 or 28 on the other. So this is now popcorn knitting, and I'm really enjoying that. It goes very quickly. It's a very pleasant thing to toss out a few rows in between patients or in between chores. I have not moved on to the Pennsylvania Dutch embroidery. However, I have to say, getting the Noro heart scarf and that Stay Warm watch cap under control is getting rid of 2 of the project bags that have been huddling under my desk since heaven knows when. So I'm very happy about that. I realize I have all sorts of scraps and bits and bobs in these bags under my desk, and so I'm enjoying getting rid of 2 of those bags. Twin Faces Brick. Well, she doesn't want it. Yes, after all this work, she has decided she doesn't want it. Why does she not want it? Well, that's outside the purview of this podcast, but she doesn't want it. And so I looked at it and said, do I unravel it? It's got everything but the sleeves. It's got about maybe a quarter of a sleeve on the right arm. So I put it on and I looked at it and I said, actually it looks quite good on me. I walked out, showed it to my husband. He goes, that looks really good on you. It's a little tighter than I normally wear my sweaters, a little more fitted. But I also looked at the pictures while I was making it. Before I put the rib neckline on it, I really liked the neckline. It had a lower neckline, which made the body lengthen out further. And I looked at that with its little quarter sleeve, and I said, you know what I really should do? And so I'm going to pull out the ribbing on the neckline. And instead, I think I'm just going to put on a very simple seed stitch or rolled collar. I have to think what I want neckline. Then I'm going to bind off that quarter sleeve, which I have marked how many rows. I've got a row counter on it. So I will do the other sleeve to match it, and I will bind them off by using the same finishing I use on the neckline. And I will have a really nice pseudo brick vest knitted from the top down with little, basically slightly more than cap sleeves. And it'll look really great on me as a vest. And it'll be very fitted the way I like my vests, which means also I might want to think about that more carefully. I might look at that as a new pattern sort of developed out of the brick that makes a very fitted vest for me that looks a little different than the basic vest that I've been making out of Ann Budd's book, The Knitter's Handy Book of Patterns. So a nice little variation there. Also a kind of cute spring and fall sweater fitted in with these shorter sleeves. So that's pretty happy. So Twin Faces brick is just turning into something like the Bright Cherry Vest or some name like that. I will go back and review it, but I'm very pleased about being able to revamp it. The Fishy brick sweater, I'm so close to finished. I really have 90 rows on the second sleeve. The first sleeve is done. So it needs like 6 more rows on the sleeve, and then it needs 31 rows of the ribbing. So we're very close on that. So we should be getting a lot of finished objects real soon is what I'm saying. I think the pecking order right now is I want to finish the Noro Heart scarf. And then probably I want to finish the Fishy brick. And then I shall go on and revamp the Bright Cherries sweater into a vest. I could finish the Bright Cherries as a brick. I just don't like my full body sweaters fitted this tightly. I like them a lot looser to put layers under them. So this looks like a vest for me that will only have 1 layer under it. In the meantime, I have once again given you the link for Sierra Cottons and Woolens in Bishops under my 2 favorite resources section, which is usually Lisa Souza yarns and webs. But there you are. My 2 favorite resources section now has 3. Dizzy Blonde. Well, my husband and my son were searching around the house for something. My son went into one of my lock boxes that I use at work and pulled out this giant, easily 1/2 to 3/4 pounds of wool, which made me realize summer is coming and I need to get back to my spinning. I did join the electric eel wheel Kickstarter for the newest eel wheel because I love my eel wheels. My current one is okay. Almost every sweater involving my hand spun has been spun on that eel wheel. I do not find it as strong as I like, and it looks like the new one is going to up that strength. Maurice has also included, as part of the deal, you can get an update package for the eel wheel I have to make it stronger and more efficient. So I'm not getting one of those. I'm really quite happy with my eel wheel, and I'm looking forward to getting the upgraded version. Again, it was $95, not a big risk. So I'm quite happy about the eel wheel and doing that as another Kickstarter. I do not use Maurice's Kickstarters for things like yarn counters and spool winders and all that. I could, but I'm not that interested in that stuff. But I'm a very big fan of the eel wheels and also of the nanos. So that's in the spinning world. On the strategy. Okay, we're still talking about emotional management strategies. And in this one, I want to talk about urge surfing a little more. And urge surfing is a distress tolerance skill you may remember. And it runs based on this logic. When something you perceive as bad happens, it's like you're facing an incoming tsunami wave of painful emotion. Rather than drown in the tsunami and give way to it and fall apart and have your mood collapse and all that, you can also try to surf the wave. That is, You say, I can tolerate this tsunami of painful emotion. I do not have to act on it. I do not have to punish other people because I'm experiencing it. I do not make big decisions during it. Instead, I simply say, I can handle this discomfort or pain. I have handled it before. I can handle this without harming anyone or anything, including any of my cherished relationships. And so urge surfing is saying, I have been through pain. All pain passes. I can tolerate this pain. I can simply accept it without judgment and ride it out. I don't have to act in any precipitous way. This also ties into the logic, if you can't make it better, please don't make it worse. That is an integral part of urge surfing. So how do you take that into the larger sphere of the emotional management strategies? You recognize that you have phases in your life. So right now, we're in a tough place. Most of us, we have inflation, we have high gas prices, we have, shootings in schools. We have all sorts of things going on. This is a tough phase. But in my 61 years, I've also seen politically good phases, and I've also seen prosperous phases. And you can take this down to any level in your life you want to. For example, I can look back at my 35 plus years with the same guy, and I think 30 years is, it's this July, in fact, is our 30-year anniversary. We've been together a long time. I can remember some really bad phases in our relationship, and I can remember some insanely good ones. That all relationships have phases like this. Almost every experience in life. I can remember in my jobs when I had great jobs and then management changed and it turned south. So again, you have to accept that it's not just your mood that goes in phases. The world goes in phases. Your relationships go in phases. Your jobs, your projects, your life at home, the way your kids behave, all of that is going to go in phases. So the bigger version of urge surfing, the distress tolerance skill, is this larger understanding that all things change, that we live in a world governed by, as Shakespeare would have called it, mutability. Mutability, mutare is the Latin word for to change. So one of the things that you can do in your day-to-day maintenance is when you're taking stock of your world, you look at the bad things in your life and you say, this has been good at some time. That's why I know it's bad now. This will probably change again to being good. You can also look at how you make the change towards the positive. That sometimes, for example, if you want to change your marriage, you have to accept that this could be a slow process, that bad habits have set in. So you might do therapy, you might do counseling at your church or synagogue or temple. There are a lot of ways you could look at it. You could work through a self-help book together. But the idea is you can't have instant, snap-your-finger change in most situations. Accepting phases in life is also tolerating the idea that change can come very slowly. So where do we get hope and optimism from? You recognize that you've come a distance. So this is a frequent one in therapy with a certain kind of patient where they say, I'm not sure if I am getting anything out of therapy. That is a very valid thing to say in therapy, by the way. No criticism here. And so, it's a reasonable thing. And in my situation, I'll say, well, let's look back at what your goals were when you came to see me. Let's see how we think you've changed. And I'll say, here's what I think you've done. What do you think you've done? And at that point, we may say, you're maxed out. You're right, actually, that we're not really moving very much. Maybe we should say, let's take a break. And you don't ever have to come back, or you can go to a different therapist if you want more therapy, or you can just say, I'm done therapy. But it's always good to stop, take stock, and maybe take a break if you need to. And a lot of times, the patient will go, wow, I forgot all about that. I've gotten so used to having the problems improved. So again, you want to develop this idea that your world is moving in phases, your relationships, other people's lives, your job, it's all moving in phases. And phases are slow in their shifting. And when you need hope, you sometimes have to say, as Ben Franklin would say, little strokes fell great oaks. That is, you got to chip away at change a little bit at a time. So sometimes you're not looking at your success in changing in a big way. Sometimes you're just saying, I've managed to achieve a few small steps. So remember that when you're working on long-term emotional maintenance and management, you have to take this idea of life moving in phases very, very seriously. By the way, for those of you who are hanging on with the ACT hexagon, that was very related to self in context, to staying in the presence, to acceptance, and to committed action, that I will take little steps to keep the process moving. In the fluffy books, I am still reading the Introduction to American Deaf Culture. I'm a little bit bogged down because I haven't been reading a lot since I came back from my vacation. I've been doing a lot of other things, and it's been great. It's a great book. The link is in the show notes. I highly recommend you look for it as a used book because it's a collegiate textbook. I think the original is like $60. If it was not a textbook, it would probably cost like $15 on the shelf at Barnes & Noble. So that's what I looked for. I just looked for a copy in good condition, and I think I paid about $15 for mine. I have returned to the Lady Darby mysteries, which are Victorian mysteries, and I'm currently on the 10th one, A Perilous Perspective by Anna Lee Huber. Really nice. I don't have a lot to say about them. Of course, you have this couple at the center of it, Lady Darby and her husband, the wonderful Mr. Gage, Sebastian, and they have 21st sensibilities in the middle of the Victorian era, mostly in Scotland, sometimes in London. You know, that's what you get when you read cozy historical mysteries. The interesting thing about it is she has been thoroughly trained in anatomy and dissection in a rather traumatizing way. And I think what the book does well is it presents a model of a woman having knowledge in what is traditionally, at that time certainly, a male-dominated field, and the model of what happens when her husband, who's a good investigator, trusts her instinct and puts his faith in her. But, you know, there's not a lot of huge social commentary beyond that. Of course, things like that make me happy. I did read Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. Everybody loves Brené Brown. I have to tell you, I probably would if I wasn't already doing what I do for a living. I found it a bit repetitive, but encouraging. She says a lot of things that make me feel better. She's a PhD in social work. And I don't want to dig into this too deeply. I listened to it. I went through it very quickly. I like most of what she's going for. I can't think of a moment where I said, no, that's wrong. Occasionally I said, no, that's a little vague, or maybe I'd like to see some research beyond anecdotal and storytelling for this. Her standards of research are a little anecdotal for my tastes, but she does a great job, and I do think she's making good arguments. Daring Greatly is based on a quote by Theodore Roosevelt, where he talked about any idiot can be a critic. He doesn't say it quite that way. But the person you respect is the person in the arena, as he puts it, daring greatly. The person out there making mistakes and trying. And this leads Brown to say some things like you have to let your kids fail. You have to accept that if you want any change, you have to let yourself be vulnerable. It's a very nice book. I really liked it. Brené Brown has this amazing gift to take a small idea and do what the Roman politician Cicero would call dilatio, that she can make it very, 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 very big and lengthy from just a core idea. And I think her books are very much in the public arena for that reason, that I think, you know, I found it a little bit run on because I have a little more training in this. I can see why her books are popular, and I think it's great stuff, and she's very positive and very encouraging. It is a little heartrending because in the beginning she talks about living in a culture of cynicism and victimization, which I love her for doing. So this is Daring Greatly by Brené Brown, and I do recommend it. I think it's a good book based on her logic in it. I feel like probably I'd like most of her books, but I think for me, one is going to be enough. In the meantime, I have stumbled onto the Enola Holmes series, as in The Little Sister of Sherlock Holmes by Nancy Springer. I've been dancing around these for years. These are really not novels. They are what we used to call novellae, that is, or novella for the singular. That is a short novel. Not quite a full novel, but longer than a short story. So Springer gets around this by writing them into the young adult genre. Sure, good enough. They're good. They're really good. They're just really short. I've been listening to them on Audible. I tend to buy the book in the Kindle format, and then you get a discount on the Audible book. So I've been alternating between reading and listening. The narrator of these books I really like in Audible. This is the late Catherine Kellgren, who was a superb narrator. And she does a great job with these books. She is extremely good at doing the voices, at handling diction and accent, and also at conveying appropriate emotion. It is really a sad thing that we've lost Ms. Kellgren. I have listened to quite a few novels read by her on Audible, and she is very much a loss. At any rate, this is the Enola Holmes series. I have a link to Nancy Springer's page on Amazon where you can find links to the whole series. Something I really like, I did not know what I would put in here today. And then last night, I stumbled on isochronic sleep music. I was scrolling down Instagram and found one of the endless ads for Kickstarters, and there was this machine that makes isotonic tones, which I've sort of heard of, kind of vaguely knew, went and looked at it. It's okay, it's a machine that makes repetitive tones that make you fall asleep at pre-programmed wavelengths, blah, 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 delta and theta wavelengths. Okay. So I said, you know what? Why would I buy a machine for that? I'll bet that's all over YouTube. And lo and behold, it's all over YouTube. I found one for 55 minutes long by a channel called Two Honest Guys on YouTube. And when you look at the channel, the sleep music that lasts 55 minutes does not occur right at the top of the channel. You have to dig a bit. But I put the link in the show notes for one of their YouTube videos, the one I used. I'm not sure if it worked or not, but something made me sleep extremely deeply last night. So I turned this thing on for 55 minutes, and the first time I played it, I was kind of jittery. So I realized suddenly, I woke up when it stopped. And I realized that I'd been dozing, not really sleeping, but the jitteriness had stopped. So I thought, well, can't hurt. Turned it on again. That's the last thing I remember. I went out like a light. And, okay, that's not surprising in the middle of the night. Maybe I was just tired. What was surprising was I awoke again 55 minutes later when the thing stopped. And you know what? I felt like I was crawling out of a well. I felt like I had slept more deeply and more thoroughly than I had since I can remember. So I said, well, let's see, three's a charm. Same thing. I must have reset that thing about 5 times last night. I think I got about 6.5 hours of sleep. I feel terrific. I slept so hard and so deeply. So will this work? Is this a long-term problem solver for me? I'll let you know. But right now, something I really like is isochronic sleep music. The link is in the show notes. There are tons of channels for free on YouTube featuring this stuff. Explore. To me, this is the Calm app grows up. I haven't listened to Calm in a few months because basically I feel like I ran through what it had that interested me. So I will kill that subscription because everything I like on it I can get for free. I don't need to be paying them money. Nothing much in the cooking category, so let's get on to the blather. Okay, in American Sign Language, the classes begin August 22nd online. It is a real-time online Zoom. I'm scared out of my mind, and I'm trying to learn vocabulary every day. I'm not doing the greatest job, but I'm trying. It is hard to keep the vocabulary in your head when you have nobody to practice with. The nice thing is my son is actually kind of interested, so every now and then he'll ask me a question. And we have started communicating through windows every now and then at the gym, trying to use sign with each other. So that's very, very wonderful. Let's see what else I have to say here. No, that's what I have to say. And then we get on to the big news, the pup date. Captain is doing great. she is working on behavior. She's been a little bit badly behaved. And so we're all watching YouTube videos and we're all collaborating. And so there's been a lot of improvement. Why would Captain be badly behaved? She is a high-strung and sensitive individual. That 1/4 Border Collie really comes through. She's also very intelligent. So she has a way of making her opinions known. So we've just been formalizing rules we never needed for the other dogs, because Captain will have ideas that no dog before her has ever had about where she can be on furniture, how she greets us. She smiles at me. She actually bares her teeth in a smile. But if you're too close, she kind of loses her marbles and snaps. So you really have to work on, don't put your face in hers when she's smiling, because she gets confused. Also, she is 3/4 Newf. Our first Newf, Teddy, was very nearsighted. He was not prone to snapping. But you could tell, because he couldn't see well, if you got too close to his eyes with your face or with something he didn't expect, that every now and then he would get really uncomfortable. And I think that's what we're looking at with Captain. But no fear biting, nothing dangerous like that. She's a wonderful girl. She does have a way of expressing her opinions. We're working on it. And the really exciting news. So Amy Cook of Cook's Collies, they've had a really busy season. They have a lot of bitches giving birth to puppies. I had said I wanted a golden sable, very much like Eleanor. Of course I did. Big surprise. I want a dog that looks like my late friend. And she was sending out pictures of darker dogs, blues, tricolors, which are mostly black. And I just loved my golden collie. I have to tell you the thing about Eleanor. I used to say I didn't care what she did. I could have just looked at Eleanor all night and day. She was and remains the single most beautiful dog I have ever seen. That she glowed like a copper penny in the winter when she got her undercoat. And in the summer, she was like this burst of sunshine with a big white mane walking across the room. I loved her long white gloves on her forelegs. I loved her big white mane, which was a higher quality fur for spinning undercoat than the rest of her. So there I was looking for another golden sable. And Amy was not sending me much news because she was having all these puppies that had darker coats. And that's nice. And I was tempted. I mean, some of them were really adorable, but it just didn't turn me on. And so I finally messaged on one of her Facebook pages. I said, I'm dying over here. And she said, I swear to you, I have more sables coming. Well, this morning, she sent me some pictures of dark sables. And she started with a dog named Maddie, as in mad about you, Maddie. I don't know what it was. I looked at the first picture of Maddie and burst into tears, and I said, that's the puppy. She is not a golden sable like Eleanor. She's going to be a darker sable with strong orange on her body and a black faint overcasting down her back. I can't tell you what it was. Well, actually I can, because it was the first picture. She was lying there not looking into the camera, and I saw the left side of her head is a little more orange than the right side, but I saw these little white paws sticking out under this big white ruff and a big white stripe that ends in a blotch on her nose, and I just started to cry. I just said, that's the dog. That's the dog. And Amy started sending me other pictures, and I messaged her back and said, stop sending pictures. Just don't. I don't want to see another dog. This is the dog. And so I have a lot of pictures of her. Now, they're a little deceptive because some of them she's halfway in shadow. She seems to be sitting in straw in a barn. And so the people who were picking her up for the pictures didn't take her out into full sunlight. So she looks much darker in some of the pictures around the head and back than she is in the light. But she will have a significant black fur casting, particularly it looks like from the middle of her spine down to her tail. The rest of her looks like it's going to be a mahogany sable, like a very dark brown shot through with orange. And all I can say, she's got a huge white ruff. She's got white boots on all her legs, which just sends me insane with happiness. It's something about the delicate little white feet that cracks me up. And she's got a big mane, a big white ruff. And it looks like it's bigger on her right side than on her left, looking at the pictures. And then there's a picture where somebody is holding her up, and they've got one hand cradled under her butt with her tail sticking through with its big white tip. And she's looking into the camera, and she has wise eyes, which was one of Eleanor's great features. That Eleanor had the most wonderful eyes. When you looked into them, you knew there was somebody intelligent and thoughtful and somewhat sensitive in nature looking back. This puppy has it too. So this is officially QDR, Wensiath Ferch Eleanor, which is Welsh for Wensiath is a Welsh warrior queen who was killed in battle unfairly, and so her warriors for 100 years, the Welsh would scream her name going into battle, would basically scream for Gwensiath. And so there she is. Ferch means daughter of in Welsh and strangely in German, I think in German, and then Eleanor. So everybody's in that name. Will she be Queenie or will she be Gwen? I'll let you know when I meet her. I will be flying out there now for certain. I will be going out on July 11th. I will drive across to the farm to pick her up on July 12th. I will fly home with her in the early hours of July 13th. And I will take July 14th off because I will be exhausted and my puppy will be sad and homesick. But that is the saga of Queenie's big road trip. Here it comes. We are 1 month out. I have put in for the time off, and it's very exciting. Minerva, of course, gets the last word, and her last word, I'm sure, is another what? Because Queenie is just another dog to chase Minerva in Minerva's world. Now, none of my dogs chase Minerva until Captain. Captain doesn't exactly chase her. Captain bounds up to her. Now, Captain is about 6 times Minerva's size. Well, right now, she's about 4 times her size. And that must be like an express train bouncing up to you when you stand on a platform joyfully trying to put its express train arms around you or lick your face with its express train tongue. So Minerva tolerates Captain. She does not hiss at her unless Captain really overdoes it. They have a game they play. Captain bounces up to the windows at the back of the house. Minerva likes to run up and bat at her. They both like to do it. Captain will bat at the glass with her paws, and Minerva will bat back. So they seem to have this very weird relationship. But I strongly suspect Minerva's last word would be, seriously, guys, 1 dog is enough. And it's at moments like that where I cuddle Minerva close and I tell her I love her, and then I say, really hard luck, old bean, you're going to have to share me. So on these happy notes, that brings us to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please remember, keep the masks on hand, get the booster shot, socially distance, wash your hands, and most of all, everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.